Ever since Volume 8 ended, Whitley Schnee has been the character I've had the most complicated feelings towards. Which is weird because I didn't expect to have any feelings regarding him in the first place, but he somehow managed to be my favorite character in the whole volume. And I think that's a problem with the writing. Now that may seem like a weird assertion to make. I like this character a lot and that's a problem with the writing. I mean, I made a whole video about Amaryllis from High Guardian Spies being the best character and I never said that that was a problem. I mean, the show had problems, but Amaryllis' likability wasn't one of them. But what makes me liking Amaryllis and me liking Whitley so different is the reason I like them. I like Amaryllis because of her complex and unusual personality, especially in relation to the other characters in the story. But I like Whitley because of the actions he takes and his intelligence while doing so. The problem is the type of story Volume 8 is. A race against the clock and the antagonist to find a way to save as many people in Atlas and Mantle as possible. That means that the actions of the characters are extremely important as there are a very limited number of actions that can be taken towards winning. And Whitley, in my opinion, just takes too many of those actions for himself. To summarize, when Nora is injured, Whitley is the one who called Klein to treat her. When Penny crashed in front of the mansion, he helped carry her in, even though Blake, a huntress with super strength, and a foreigner he should more associate with manual labor, was right there. This would later almost get him killed. He came up with the idea to use the Schnee transport ships to evacuate Mantle and was apparently the only one who could carry out that plan while the girls acted as his bodyguards. When RWBY, Blake and Weiss were cornered by the half-dead hound, it was his idea for him and his mother to kill it by pushing a statue onto it. And when Ironwood shit the bed and ruined his perfectly reasonable plan to save Mantle and they had to go along with Team RWBY's worst one, he had already gotten the map of Mantle's layout for his initial evacuation plan. These are all great moments for him, but they make the main characters flat out look incompetent when this 14-year-old spoiled brat is doing their job better than them. Calling Klein is fine. Sure, Weiss knows him better than Whitley, but with everything that's happened, I can sort of buy that it didn't occur to her first. Maybe she's no longer used to asking her servants to help her. Carrying Penny was dumb. The only reason it happened was so the hound would chase him too. Why is Blake the one opening the doors? In episode 7, she was closer to Penny after she crash landed. How did Whitley wind up being one of the people carrying her? Character-wise though, it makes Whitley look really concerned for the well-being of others, even if they are not human. The Hound is a mixed bag. I get that the heroes were freaked out by the humans sticking out of the Grimm they were fighting, but the alcoholic socialite and the non-combatant spoiled child had enough presence of mind to be the ones to kill it. And it was the child's idea. But if either of them summon it later, I suppose it might lead to an interesting payoff. Almost saving Mantle is the big problem, because everyone else, be it on RWBY or Ironwood's side, looks incompetent because it's the best plan anyone in the volume comes up with to save as many lives as possible. I mean, look at what RWBY's half of the heroes actually accomplished. They got their message out to the world, and it obviously didn't accomplish anything. Probably because the militaries of the kingdoms are too busy dealing with the grim attacks that resulted from the panic RWBY's message caused to travel halfway across the world on the world of a teenager. They made Penny human, but that went nowhere. They came up with the whole use the staff to make a magic portal to vacuo plan, but ignoring the logistical problems of that plan, the biggest problem is sending everyone to the middle of the goddamn vacuo desert. Not even to an academy, but to probably the harshest environment on Remnant. Or second after wherever Salem lives, where everything from the environment to the culture is basically the opposite of what they are used to, and they are immediately attacked by Grimm.
But we got Oscar back, and did a lot more that was never in the plan.
Yeah, you somehow made things worse. The Atlesian military was out fighting the Grimm. Oscar blew up the whale and put Salem out of commission. Whitley came up with the evacuation plan. Even Yang's team managed to lock into being in the whale to fight Salem. And what was everyone else doing? Drinking tea, moping around the mansion about how hard everything is, and contemplating their uselessness.
Penny launched Amity, and our message went out. Do we just wait for someone to come? If they even come.
Meanwhile, Whitley's plan was almost perfect. The only problem was Ironwood flushing his brain down the toilet. Salem was out of commission. It seems like all the Grimm were dead. All they needed to do was the evacuation. And because they weren't relying on a single magic object and a poorly thought out walkway system with no guardrails, even Cinder would have a hard time ruining it. Hell, Whitley was most likely going to send everyone somewhere that made sense, like Argus, because limited fuel means he can't waste time sending them to the worst possible place he could, just because the plot demands it for Volume 9. Even if Team RWBY insists on making Penny a real girl, they can just put the staff back where they found it, keeping Atlas floating and keeping Salem from getting to it. And that's where my problem comes from. Whitley almost saved Atlas, and I love him for it, but I hate how incompetent it makes everyone look. My biggest criticism with their side of the "what do we do" debate was that they had an ideal they wanted to stick to, but no valid plan to accomplish it. I mean, let's face it, the broadcasting that message idea was always terrible. So when this character who's been portrayed as an ignorant rich brat comes up with the idea to use the Schnee resources to save everyone, while Weiss #white guilts about having the same resources, it just makes them look bad. Honestly, this is a worse version of the fact that Weiss was only able to have her father arrested because of evidence her mother gathered. Willow and Whitley have done a better job of redeeming the Schnee name in general than Weiss. If Ironwood was still acting like a human being at that point in the story, Whitley might have saved all of Mantle, which I guess is why they couldn't let him succeed when the heroes hadn't done anything. My favorite moment is when, even after freaking out about the talking Grimm trying to kill him and running for his life, he still had the presence of mind to run back and make sure the drones received their orders to save the civilians. RWBY should be thanking the two gods he can't fight, or her main character status would be even more threatened than it always is. But then the question becomes, why? Why, even if the plan was doomed to fail, was Whitley the one who came up with it? And why was he the only one who could pull it off? I mean, I know the answer to the last one. It's because for all Weiss thinks and claims she's the heiress to the company, she spends more time learning how to kill monsters than to actually run it. The thing is, a lot of people see this as Whitley redeeming himself, but for what? He was a smug rich brat and mean to his sister. For the first point, so was Weiss when we met her, to a worse degree even. For the second, she's his sister, and like Willow says,
you left him alone. With us.
Now let me clarify, Weiss shouldn't be seen as bad for this. If you want to see her as bad for how she continues to treat Whitley afterwards, that's fine, but she herself was a child trying to escape an abusive household like her sister did. But if Whitley feels a little resentful of her because of it, that's understandable, especially if it expresses itself as only him being a little condescending to her. And considering his parents, that's frankly tame. Whitley didn't need redemption, except maybe in the eyes of the people who hated him because he was mean to Best Girl. And if that was what RT was going for, they overshot because he didn't even redeem himself. In the middle of what may as well have been the end of the world, he simply rose to the occasion at every turn while the other characters were waiting for the other kingdoms to come save them. This volume made me love Whitley, but it was to the detriment of every other character. Also, I want him to summon the Hound. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more videos. Thank you and good day.